Okay.
Hey everybody, what's up? I didn't tell Adrienne we're starting because I know her and like her and wanted to catch her, keep her on her toes. Hi, Adrienne.
Hey, how you doing?
This is Adrianne Meldrum. She is a brilliant online math tutor and helper and genius, and she's got a little company where she helps a bunch of kids all over the place with math stuff. So, hi.
Hi. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited. It's been interesting, right? The start of the school week for most people was this week, and I know my inbox is busy. How about yours?
It's overflowing, and people are having a lot of math problems. So, we're going to dive into some of the issues with younger kids, elementary school and middle
Older
schoolish,
kids.
maybe a little appropriate for some high school parents of high school kids, too.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
to my audience, this is Adrienne. Adrienne, do you want to introduce me to your audience?
Yeah. So I think my audience knows a lot about you, Seth, because a lot of them know you and like you, trust you, all of that. But this is Seth. He focuses on executive function. He is the guru who helped my son. And I'm so grateful that I know Seth and for the work that he's doing because our kids need him in their lives.
Awesome. And Adrienne's site was Math for Middles, but you changed the name, right?
Yeah, it's madeformath.com now.
Made for math, because the idea is that your child's brain, even if they don't believe it, is actually made for math when you do it right.
Yeah, yeah, when it's taught to the way they learn. Yes.
So um so one of the things that Adrienne did, and I'm just going to start with this, we're going to talk a little
Yeah.
bit about some of the complexities of this fall, but one of the things Adrienne did was put together two resources that you can grab here.
Yeah.
Can you show us
Yeah,
those
let
two
me show you.
resources?
Of course, these are going to be printable, but you can look at these in digital format, and these are hyperlinks. So basically, on here we've got some just general math things that you can use and help. And we're all about hands-on math. Just FYI, it's not the drill and kill memorization, that kind of stuff. So we've even got virtual manipulatives on here for you, so your child can drag things around on their iPad or on the computer without having to go buy them. But then down here we've got some reference books that, I'm old school. You're probably old school, Seth, right? It's nice sometimes to just have like a book to help you help your child instead of going to the internet and going down the rabbit hole of all the options. And then math facts is a huge pain point for a lot of families. So we've got some good stuff here. And then fractions is the number one topic we reteach. Doesn't matter if you're a middle schooler or a high schooler, we're always reteaching fractions, and it's huge. It has implications for a long time. It's important even at the high school level. So fractions are listed here. And then we've got some algebra, some really good algebra stuff. There's a lot of cool apps on here that help with understanding what we're doing in algebra. And then special for Seth's audience, and my people can go get it too. I'm going to give away my signature course. It's self-guided. It's all about fractions because I said it's the number one topic. So anyone that uses this coupon code, the coupon code is Seth SFF, you can have the course for free. You can go over there and start watching and
Mm,
using it with your child. So I
What
wanted
age
to
is
make
that?
sure
What age is that geared
you can
towards?
use it, no joke, you can use it with fourth all the way up. We teach it in such a way that doesn't feel babyish. You are totally engaged and you understand what you're doing when you're watching these videos.
Awesome. And show us the other
Yeah.
thing. And while you're getting
Yeah.
to that, one of the things when Adrienne, I love teaching fractions personally, love it. And I taught math, science, social studies, reading, writing, all the stuff, but I love teaching math. And I don't, I can't teach stoichiometry or high level math, but I can get up into algebra and geometry. And fractions is such a misunderstood concept.
Yep.
But the way that I look at it, parents, is that you've got like a bucket, and a lot of kids, especially when they get into middle and high school, there's a lot of holes in the bucket. And for a lot of my kids who struggle with executive function, what happens is oftentimes many of these kids were really doing pretty well with mental math. And then they hit a point, usually right at middle school, when they have to start showing their work and and they don't want to, and
Exactly.
they miss a detail and they get everything wrong because of one detail or two details, and it makes it look like they're not good at math, or they start to feel like they're not good at math. And then since they miss those things and don't want to show their work, that's really when things can get challenging. But a
For
lot of times
sure.
these kids memorize how to do multiplication or
Hmm.
how to do division, but they don't know why it works. And I know for Adrienne and definitely
Hmm.
for me, it's critical that they understand why, because then they can use all sorts of algorithms
Yeah.
and have all sorts of ways to approach a problem. There's not one way, which is often a misunderstanding that I think parents have. When they see one way taught, they're thinking this is the way. Nope,
Hmm.
there's a million. And
No.
when you understand the principles, your kid can adapt it in all sorts of. Sorry
Yes.
for that ranty rant, but
No, I totally agree. Someone on my team just the other day, I felt like he made such a good analogy. One of the goals of mathematics is to learn to be a flexible thinker, and people often think, no, there's only one way to do it. And I've seen these memes circulating around with all these parents homeschooling their children, right? Well, they're going to do it my way, the way I learned how to do it. But I prefer the flexible thinking because there's lots of ways to get there. And so
mm,
the analogy he made was we live in a world where we have, digital maps. We have multiple ways we can get there, from walking to biking to driving, public transportation in different routes, different times. Why can't we have that in math too, right? And so he was saying maybe that pre-packaged stuff that we learned, the exact method, is not serving our children. They need a more variety way of getting there. And I totally agree with that. I love that analogy. It really helps me let go of that rigidity that I learned in school, because there's just one way of doing it, right? But you and I know how beneficial it is to be this flexible
mhm.
thinker and see multiple paths to getting to the answer.
And especially for these neurodiverse kids who already have outside the box thinking styles, it's so great to
Hmm.
give them different ways of looking at things. So show
Right.
us the journal thing you created.
Yeah, sure. So another important thing is, especially if you've got kiddos more at home, I'm also hearing from parents like they're having like enlightening moments, realizing how bad it is right now. Like, oh my word, I had no idea my child was struggling this much. So a lot of kids have got a lot of anxiety around math, and with learning, if you're feeling some anxiety, it shuts down everything, and you're going to have that fight or flight response and seriously want to run out of the room, or melt down, or whatever it is, freeze and do nothing. So a math journaling prompt is what I made for you. And I realize you've probably got kids that don't like writing. I have kids that don't like writing, so
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
you could use like Voxer on your phone, voice message apps. You could find ways to talk to each other and make it a safe place. But there's 7 different kinds of questions you can go through to help your child. My favorite is at the very top. Tell me about a time you knew you weren't good at math. And I promise you, a very revealing moment will come to your child's mind. They'll be able to share and talk about it and let go of some of the shame about that experience. A lot of my students, it tends to be as young as 3rd grade when they're learning their math facts. That's when they adopt that belief. I'm not made for math. I can't do this. And you and I both know that's not true, because they just encountered an activity with learning their math facts that was working memory heavy. And if you have a weak working memory, learning math facts through rote, drill and kill is not going to work for you.
I remember when I was teaching third grade and we did like a driver's license thing where they would get like a little stamp for when they memorized their ones, twos
Yes.
tables, threes tables for multiplication. And I just being that type of kid myself as a teacher doing that with my team, and these were awesome teachers, but I just could not digest that. I was like, this is just not working for so many. So many of the kids do not respond to, getting a star for memorizing the thing. Well, I wanted to ask some questions. Oh, I also wanted to say with your journal question, this Adrienne and I were talking before this chat today, and she told me that that was her favorite one. And I was like, I ask a very similar question, even to college kids. And
Yeah.
I'll say, when was the first time that you felt like you weren't a successful student, or when was the first time you felt shame in a classroom, or and they will say in first grade, this happened with a teacher or my parent or whatever, or, in third grade or fifth grade, this happened, and they remember. And I think that that's a testament to how something I talk about all the time is the nervous system, how powerful the nervous system is, and how impactful memories are when we feel fight, flight, or freeze and it hits the nerve. And you're not thinking, oh, my kid, was in second grade and there was a math experience and that was recorded in the nervous system and it's still impacting them. It is. And you,
Hmm.
the viewer, and me and Adrienne, we all have stuff like that.
I
And
still remember mine.
what was yours?
So I have a couple, but going back to math facts, same thing. I'm smiling because it was the foil stars. I couldn't do it. I had a terrible working memory, unbeknownst to me. So I resorted to cheating, and I felt
Mhm.
deep shame about that. But both my friend and I struggled, so we were like, well, together we're smarter, you know? So
Yeah.
we would find a way to cheat, and that still hurts to think that I resorted to that.
Yeah.
I had no idea what to do. I was panicked.
Yeah, one of my students the other day, one of my middle schoolers was telling me how easy it is to cheat with the online tests that they're doing now and how many kids are cheating and how they feel like it's so unfair because if they actually study and they know half the class is just Googling it while they're taking the test.
Yeah,
it's
right?
that's a
It is
problem.
a
All right, well,
problem.
let's get into,
Yeah.
and Adrienne and I will just chat 5 or 10 minutes, and I want to ask her what you parents have been asking me. So I want to ask Adrienne about some of the math questions that I've been hearing during this pandemic time with what's going on. So let's start with Adrienne, just the problem that parents are having just figuring out what the heck the assignment is from the teacher online and locating that information and how much time parents or their kids are spending just finding that out. What are some of your thoughts about that?
Now, I'm going to speak from personal experience, and it may be a little extreme. You might be a little shocked because I think there's a lot of people that are rule followers, right? They want to do what they're being told. So, yesterday was supposed to be a remote learning day for my youngest, and we transferred into a school. So, the last time we talked, if you heard me at TIFOS, my kids were doing online school. And then when they announced that they were going back to hybrid in person, my kids begged to go back and be with people. So I let them do that. So we started this week, and what you do is you go 2 days in person, and then the other 3 days are at home. So my youngest is a transfer in student, number one, which is a problem. So the teachers are all forgetting that he doesn't know how to operate the system. And they may have tried to show him, but right, working memory, I don't think he even stored that. So when I met with him yesterday morning and said, okay, let's figure this out, what you need to do, we spent, I wouldn't, I actually didn't even have him stand here and watch me because he was getting so anxious. He started pacing and kind of bouncing, and tears are welling up. And I just said, go sit in another room. I'm going to work on this. So I couldn't figure it out, Seth. I spent 10, 15 minutes, and then I decided that's enough. I don't need to spend more than that. I messaged one person, which was a friend who's in the district, and I said, help me understand this. And she gave me a little more detail. I looked again, gave it 5 more minutes, and I go, it's not there. This teacher hasn't listed what we need. So I immediately stopped because it's not worth it for me to stress and panic about it. Emailed the teacher, explained what was happening, and let it go. Because the truth is, this teacher's overwhelmed, right? And my son's overwhelmed. I just need everyone to understand and communicate that we tried, we did our best, but we're not going to let it dictate our day. So I let him off the hook, and we will figure it out tomorrow. So in my email to the teacher is very specific, though. We've talked about this, short and to the point, very specific. And I said, I need to schedule a virtual meeting with you to learn how to do this portal. And I'm still waiting for her to respond. She didn't respond yesterday. I doubt she'll get it to today. I'll probably hear from her on Sunday, is my guess. So I'm hoping that then I can learn how the portal works, because what it was, and I think a lot of you can relate. I mean, there was like 20 different tiles of things that he could do, none of them very clearly telling us what to do. So we were frustrated, and it's just not worth the stress, in my opinion. And I hope I can empower parents to feel like it's okay this year. Everyone's frustrated, everyone's trying to do the best they can. Don't fret about your kid not showing up the way they're supposed to. No one really has time to deal with this. What do you think about that, Seth? I mean, that's what
Awesome.
we've
I
been
think I think
experiencing.
you need to communicate with the teachers. Um, I don't know if my I don't know if I the video is working properly.
Okay.
Anyhow, you why is this? Oh, I pinned you. That's why. Um, I wonder if that was the whole time. Hi, I'm
Probably.
Seth.
Hi.
So basically, you need to communicate with the teacher ASAP, and the teachers
Mhm.
are stressed out. So always do it compassionately. Always assume positive intent. Always assume you're on the same team and you're trying to help your kid. So that's the first thing. The other thing is not all parents, like Adrienne, is very tech savvy, and not all of you parents are tech savvy out there. So just do your best. But and if you have to leave a phone call on their voicemail or whatever, just do what you can. I would not necessarily, well, if your kid is in school, rely on them to deliver a handwritten note. But you can do a voicemail, call the secretary of the school, call the admin. When you write the emails, CC some people, maybe CC an admin or a counselor, not to be a jerk, but just to say so that there's some accountability there
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
have a paper trail, because sometimes you do get the teacher that really is unreasonable. And I think that's the exception. But the
Mhm.
other thing is you can send them a Loom. If you don't know Loom, it's free. It's amazing. Adrienne tried to get me to use
Yeah.
it for like 2 years before I ever used it.
It's
Now I
the
use it all the
best.
time. But you can show your screen to the teacher and say, "Hey, teach, what's up? Really appreciate what you do. Look, we're trying to figure out what the homework is. And show them, here's where I'm going with the mouse. I don't know what the heck you want. Help me here." And you
Yeah.
can send off a Loom. Now, teachers who are watching this, you can make a Loom, send it to your whole class and say, "This is how you log in. This is where you look. This is when you look. This is how you look." And teachers, you can also say, if it's taking this long, stop. You can give the parents permission to know when,
Yeah. The appropriate
and
amount of time of trying,
and
right?
what Adrienne
Yeah.
did by taking that off her kid's plate and saying, "I'll figure out what you have to do. I just want you to focus on doing it." So a
Yeah.
lot of parents want their kids to go through that whole process. And parents, I know you're busy too, but
Yeah.
like, and I know that it's good to practice the executive function stuff, but your kid only has so much bandwidth. Or imagine they have 100
Exactly.
points of energy a day. And once they reach 100 points, they're in overwhelm and reserves, and that's never good. And we don't want them getting in that habit in life. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah. I agree. Loom is a lifesaver. I adore it.
All right, so what about this? This is another one I've been hearing a lot. Your kid is in the online math class. They're trying to listen to the teacher. They're spacing out. They can't pay attention. It's not engaging. It's not interesting. And there are distractions on other tabs with things that are much more interesting to them that they're either engaging in or trying to avoid or whatever. But the point is the teacher is trying to convey knowledge and it's not getting through.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, for especially for our kids with executive function issues. So if you have the means, I honestly believe you should hire some help, because I'm thinking most parents are lacking the time. There's some parents that have the time to sit side by side with their child and help, help communicate that knowledge, help them find, online videos, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of you are like me and like Seth, you're working from home too, and you're limited with time. So see if you can find like a college student that would be willing to help your child navigate this math. If you need someone that has more experience, working with someone like us, we help kids with dyslexia, ADHD, and autism really grasp math and what they're doing. We could be the lead teacher, we could be the support teacher, either way. But having someone else, I think, too, can help eliminate some of the stress. There's a lot of this going on with you and your child because you also know how to do it your way, and then the school's probably doing it a slightly different way. And so having a neutral party come in and help can be really um, amazing, because it lowers the pressure and noise that your child might be feeling, and it's a better scenario all the way around, in my opinion. So I do that with my boys. And when this pandemic started, I put each of my boys, I took people from my team and paid for them to go be with each person. So they had someone to talk to. And all of my kids were like, gosh, this is great. I'm learning a lot more actually than I am in my class with my peers at the same time. So you're not hurting them, you're not distracting them or anything like that. It's helping them accomplish that task, in a better environment for them, because the school's not going to be able to provide that for you.
Awesome. And I just heard, I was listening to NPR this morning and they were talking about, the financial hardships that people who are experiencing, that they're going through their savings and they really are struggling.
Yeah.
So for the parent
Yeah.
who um, really just they're trying their best to do this on their own and learn on their own. Where can they go? What are some of your favorite resources that a parent can access where they can, because what happens is a lot of times the parents say, I watched the math teacher's lesson. I don't even know what the heck they're talking about. And the parent knows that they know enough to almost help their kid, but they're kind of need to solidify that knowledge. Where can parents go
Yeah, so
to
like free
learn?
resources. If you're a military family, the military actually will pay you for tutoring. There's like a whole website where they can access an online tutor and get some help. There's a lot of really cool apps, which again, I've got linked up here that can help walk your child through. There's even, I'm sure you've seen the app, Seth, that you can scan the homework problem and it will show you the steps to solving it. Have you seen that app?
I never have. I love Wolfram Alpha, which doesn't scan it for you, but it does quite a bit on the
Yeah.
free version. But
Yeah, so
mm,
I don't have that on here on this one, but I will make sure you guys get the link to it. So it's helpful in that it helps jog your memory of like, oh, that's how you do it. I don't remember. And that is an empowering tool you can give to your child too, as well, that they could scan it as long as the only issue with it is if the handwriting's really bad or the print copy they got's real blurry, it might not do it correctly. But for the most part, it works just great. So there's those kinds of things. Another interesting idea that I've seen some of my friends do is for the moms that are not working and that have the gift of just being able to focus on their children right now, there's a bunch of moms that have banded together and they're helping out their friends. So they're actually taking groups, they're doing the pod thing, and there's no money being exchanged from what I know. They're just trying to help their friends and lighten the load. Bless their hearts. Like, I parents like that, bless you. So see if you can like find a way to even swap with a parent and say, if you could take this shift from this shift, I'll do this one, and see if you could divide the subjects up too. Maybe you have a strength in English, this person has a strength in science and math. Something along those lines. There's a lot of creative ways I think that you can get the help you need without paying money out.
awesome. I also love YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And when I work with kids to help them find YouTube videos to help them with math, what I teach them is don't just go to the first one. Find a personality you like, a pacing you like,
Yes.
because it's not just the first one that you find that teaches it. Find one that resonates with you. Some are long-winded. I can't stand that, but some people like all the detail. Even I'm long-winded. Maybe that's why
Right.
I can't stand it because it's a mirror. But I'm like, get to the point, do it fast.
Mm-hmm.
I Some of my kids who like it faster will speed up the video,
Mm-hmm.
so you can actually do that in YouTube as well.
We love that. Yes.
Another thing you can do is you can literally type the question into a Google search. You don't need Wolfram Alpha or other things. You can
Mm-hmm.
literally type the exact question in there and click on Google Images, and you'll often find something very helpful there.
Super true. And then some of my favorite YouTube channels are listed on here, by the way. So, I think they're great. And again, you can listen to them at twice the speed if they're too wordy. I love that.
So, now here's another problem that I've been hearing a lot is that parents are worried that their kid is going to get behind this year with math. My part of my thinking on that is, yeah, you're probably right.
You're
and
probably right. Yes,
and and let's get it in perspective and think about what's most important. So before we started the call, you were talking about what to prioritize and things like
for
that.
sure.
So when parents are concerned that their kid's going to get behind, and especially parents of kids with executive function struggles, that they know that their kid were if their kid were focused on the screen and the teacher, that they could
Mhm.
at least keep pace with what's going on. But it's even worse, not just because of the pandemic, but because they have attentional challenges and executive function. So, and then they're getting behind and behind and behind throughout the semester. So, what are some of your thoughts on that?
There's a lot of thoughts. We've been dealing with students that have a lot of anxiety too. And when the anxiety is so severe that learning isn't even happening, like they can't even hardly function, which for some kids right now, that is a big issue. right? Their life feels completely upside down and they lack the skills. I'm thinking about Dr. Green and what he was saying. We've identified a skill that they need to have. And so, what I've been advising those parents to do is press pause on academics for a little bit. I had to do that one year. Seth and I were friends this one year for my youngest. We had to kind of press pause on a lot of stuff, and we just worked on anxiety stuff. And it's interesting, it's worthwhile work. And I didn't view that year as a waste personally, because this year I watched him use the skills. So one of the things that he found soothing, this is kind of a tangent, I'm sorry, is he needed to reset his nervous system. And one of the things I used was a shower, because when the water hits your head, it helps you reset your thoughts. And just watching water go down the drain, I swear it allows him to let the thoughts leave and wash away. And so when we were going through the pandemic, he was taking showers a lot. He was taking baths a lot, sometimes 4 or 5 times a day. And I was just grateful he had something that was working for him, right? And even when we were moving, because we moved from Idaho to Arizona, he was again showering a lot, taking baths a lot. And I was grateful for that time that we spent um, learning some of those coping skills that worked for him, right? So give yourself permission to maybe focus on some of these executive function skills that your child's lacking, and the anxiety piece, because those two things affect all the other learning. And so if you're finding that your child's got these issues, that's what I would prioritize. But if your child, another thing too, like we get a lot of kids that are, we call them ABC kids, because they've got like all these diagnoses. And it can be overwhelming to know, which one do I tackle first? And a lot of you are probably homeschooling for the first time this year. And so we've seen parents attack them all. And oh my word, it is so overwhelming for students to be doing reading therapy, math therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy. Like, these kids are drained. They can't keep up. So I would say pick the most important topic. And it's reading, honestly, in a lot of ways. If you're going to pick an academic topic, then your kid needs help, pick reading. Math, in my view, you can catch up with math. And a lot of it too, developmentally, if they're a little older, we can get them moving faster as they're older. But when they're younger, third, fourth grade, if you're overwhelming them with all these therapies, the progress will be slow. So pick the ones that matter the most. So it could be reading in this case, if they have a dyslexia diagnosis, and then we can do the math. And I promise we can help you get them up to speed. So I know that's so counterintuitive, because, when you find out what's wrong, you just want to attack it all and do it all. And it's too much. Seth, do you agree?
Yeah, and I think getting back to that, imagining that you have a certain amount of, you have 100 points a
Of
day
bandwidth.
to spend
Yes.
the bandwidth, as an adult or a kid, a 5-year-old, a 15-year-old, doesn't matter. We all have like a certain amount. And the way that we've constructed schools, they don't have to be the way we've constructed them. And we've
Mm-hmm.
chosen to construct schools where it's very segmented and separated. You have math separate from science, separate from language arts, separate from this and that. And that's not real life. Real life, these
Yeah.
things are all interconnected and we use them. If I'm going to learn a new thing on guitar, I'm using all different domains or subject areas, but we don't have to have schools that way. It's just, but the fact that we do, I think, and we've been indoctrinated in this system,
Oh
it
yeah.
makes it seem like that now, as we're trying to help our kid, we have to help in all these different areas. But pick one big thing that you want to focus on for a very long. That's what I do with my
Yeah.
students. We pick one primary focus. We're always working on all of them, but
One
you
that
really,
you're willing to spend more attention on, right? Yeah.
and it has a positive domino effect
Yes.
on everything
Yes.
else. Like
It
you
really
said,
did.
working
Yeah.
with the anxiety helps right there. You're going to be able to get the executive function, the prefrontal cortex, back on board, which is then
Mm-hmm.
going to allow your child to have more bandwidth for learning.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree 100%.
There was something else that where I was going with this, but it fell off my brain. Did you have any? It'll come back to me in a second. Did you have anywhere else you were going to go?
I don't think so either. I was just enjoying that chat so much.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. Okay, so one of the things that, so first of all, many of the speakers on TIFOS this year talked about what you just talked about. Pick one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is that less is more. So I have a sixth grader, and he started school the other day, and we switched him from or the family switched him from sixth grade to seventh grade math.
Mm.
So now he's been transferred into a new class, and the teacher gave him all the makeup work. So he starts this new class, and all of a sudden he has like five assignments. And I again, it's a bandwidth issue. I told the
Mm-hmm.
parents I'd rather see him, and I've been working with him all summer on math. So I said I'd rather see him do one or two of the problems from each section on all these homeworks than do all the homeworks. And I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather see him do one or two quality problems, do them really well, and be done. And so often, and I remember you were talking about your math came pretty easy to me,
Mm-hmm.
and until I got into high school and had to had to actually write my work. But as a youngster, it came very easy. But I remember having to do these drill and kill sheets, and there would be 100 problems, and it
Yes.
was so boring and redundant and meaningless
Yes.
to me. And a lot of times, the teachers are giving this homework, their intentions are good, but for your child, doing the entire homework and how much bandwidth that takes and time, and if they have processing issues or attentional issues, may not be worth it. I'd rather see your kid do one or two things, really be present with them, and I feel like they're going to get a lot more. And you sometimes just have to believe that you can advocate, especially if you are a rule follower, as Adrienne said.
Yeah.
You have to believe that you can write a note to the teacher and say, hey, this is what we had the bandwidth for tonight. We needed family time, downtime, but we did work on these things high quality. And if the teacher's really, and if you're CCing people, first of all, that's good. But if the teacher's really hard on it and you're CCing people, you can be like, look,
Yeah. No.
work with us here. What the heck? What are you thinking? So, what are your thoughts on
Yeah.
the less is more wisdom?
Yes, less is more. And I think sometimes even I can hear my parents being like, well, sometimes even the less, I can't get them to do the less. And so what I would say to that is find a different route. So I had to do one time for my son, it again, like Seth was saying, it was just too much. So I became the scribe. And so I would say the problem out loud. He, right, he wanted to practice that mental math. So I'd write down, what he said. And he was so grateful at the end. He was like, gosh, that was awesome. I didn't have to look at the page. And I knew just even the way the page is formatted was overwhelming, right? It wasn't that there was a ton of problems, just the way it looked, right? And I think a lot of our kids are like that. They look at the pages and they go, oh my gosh, this is going to take all night, blah, blah, blah. And so finding a different route and way in, setting a timer. I know we talked a lot about clocks, right? I've been seeing in the TFOS Facebook group, everyone's trying out the clock method. I love that. Like, let's set a timer. Let's spend some time on this. Less is more. High quality exercises. I think that's great. And even popping in and using some virtual manipulatives, your child might really respond to that way more than the worksheet. So you could do something like that, take snapshots of the problem work that he did and turn that in. I think it's fine to push back on these teachers that are being more rigid. And this is our year, I feel like, to make some big waves in education and change things for the better.
I actually think that too. I think that what's happening is a lot of these problems that have been underneath the surface now are coming up, and
Mm-hmm.
people are saying, wow, the engagement's not there. And we have to really, because I think that's the most important thing is
I think
engagement.
so. Yep.
and and it's very, 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 very hard to engage kids online.
Mm-hmm.
So the question isn't how are we going to engage them, perfectly online. It's just how can we be more engaging?
Yeah.
What creates engagement?
What's the minimum effective dose required, right?
Yeah,
Effective, the minimum one. I think too often I wish parents could take, not parents, teachers could take the idea from business, a minimum viable product, right? An MVP. So what's the minimum amount I can do that's going to give my students the maximum result? That's a really empowering thought. And I know there are some teachers that do think this way. There's a teacher group with Angela Watson, she taught this concept, and I love watching the teachers who grasp that idea, especially at the secondary level, and they're like, yes, I'm going to do that, MVP this baby. And I think it's an empowering thing. We can do that too in our homes. We can, what's the minimum amount we can do that's going to have the maximum output?
Yeah, and that makes me think of a guitar metaphor that I won't waste everybody's time on.
I love it.
But there is something called economy picking, and it's the way you pick a note. And for players who play really fast, like bluegrass players or heavy metal players, any genre where they're playing really fast, there's something called economy picking, and it's how do you barely the pick barely touches the string. Less can be more. It's like how do you,
Yeah.
and really, what I think what teachers go through, and like you said, some teachers do get that, but some teachers spend, especially the rule follower teachers, spend years trying to do follow the standards in the curriculum as it's outlined, and they're trying to cover all the
Yes.
curriculum,
Yes.
and there's pressure on them from the district, from the admin, from testing. There's pressure on the teacher to follow this methodology and not to question its validity.
Hmm.
So but so often, and for any teachers watching, I will say this for any subject, really less is more, and the more you can differentiate content, process, product, and environment, and create rubrics and give them flexibility and choice and make it democratic, the more engagement you're going to get. And so often we're regurgitating what the curriculum, how the curriculum says, this is our research based curriculum, that blah, 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 that we've somehow magically said this is the
Right.
best. Meanwhile, every other one says the same thing. We're the best. And, um, so it's very, so I want to, you were giving permission to parents earlier. I want to give permission to teachers too, to really trust your gut, because you
Yeah.
probably know, um, and
Yeah.
if you are somebody who's a rule follower and you're really feeling that pressure, and you may even have literal pressure from admin saying you have to
True.
do this,
True.
say okay, close the door, and listen to your gut anyway.
Yeah. Right. And parents will thank you for it. It's important. Yeah. Let's put the kids first this year. That would be amazing.
All right. So final thought. What you got for us?
Um, my final thought is, gosh, I don't, I was gonna
Well, let
say,
me ask you this. I was doing this on the summit and I really liked it. What's your wish or hope for families that are watching right now for today? What do you hope they leave with today?
um,
Forgetting math, just
forgetting math. My wish and hope is that you feel the freedom, the gift of 2020, which is the blessing of time to work on what's needed instead of what's been dictated.
awesome. And my wish for you today is that you enjoy connecting with your family. Laugh, smile, give them a hug, tell them you love them, and enjoy. All right, let
Yes.
me show you Adrianne's. This is Adrianne's Made for Math site. You can go check her out here. Awesome stuff. This is that Seth dude's site. If you haven't never signed up, I send out a free Sunday thing. You can sign up right there. There's a million resources there.
Yeah. Seth, why don't we tell them about two things that we both have going on really quick? So
Okay.
Seth is doing some coaching,
By
premium
the time you
coaching.
see this, it'll probably be filled because it
It'll
starts
probably be filled
Sunday and my blog goes out Sunday. But yeah, I'm doing a group this fall, but I also have all kinds of other offerings on my site.
for sure.
Um, and then Adrienne has her math program this fall.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, we're having these group classes and they're amazing. They're for the rest of the year, FYI. And I highly encourage you to check them out. We can take math completely off your plate. And for once, your kid will get exactly what they need. And we teach only the way your child learns, which is a truly magical experience.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Adrienne, for being here with
Yeah,
me today.
no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, and I hope you all are well. We will see you soon. Take care.
Bye bye.